Hey, what's going on, guys? JDK here. Welcome back to another video. In this one today, this is going to be pretty much 8 ways that Treyarch can pretty much fix the zombies community in a way, because right now, as it stands, Vanguard is not it. It's just not it. People don't really like the entire gameplay formula that they're trying to go for. They don't really like the whole outbreak push that Treyarch's trying to put into the game. And this is just going to be a list of 8 things that Treyarch has done in the past that work really well, or just some random other stuff that they haven't even tried yet that could work really well in the game as well. And these 8 things I think will make the best and perfect zombies game of all time. Now, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Now, our first point that we're going to talk about is making the game finished at launch. Now, this may sound like an obvious, especially from a AAA studio, but unfortunately, Treyarch and any pretty much company that's under Activision has not been able to complete this yet. Take Black Ops 4, for example. Black Ops 4 released as an unfinished, buggy mess, and people hated it for that, and they didn't really fix it until much later into the season, but by then it was already too late, and it's a huge problem with gaming in general right now. Like, you look at other games like Halo Infinite or any live service game, they just release the game unfinished and then finish it later down the line, and they call that live service, adding new content, when in reality, they're just chopping the game up because they can't finish it in time, so they're just saving it for later. And that's just a very unhealthy way to treat your community. Obviously, it didn't work well with Halo Infinite, and it definitely didn't work well with Vanguard as well. So for that, I do think this is an important thing that Treyarch should be focusing on. Release the game fully finished first in terms of gameplay mechanics, in terms of anything like that, and I think we'll be off to a good start. Now, the next thing that Treyarch should be focusing on is making a long-term progression system that's actually rewarding. Now, this is a big problem that I saw with Black Ops Cold War, was people were either encouraged to play either Warzone, multiplayer, or zombies, and they only picked the one that gave them the most XP, usually being multiplayer, or for Cold War's instance, it was firefight mode, which was just a bad idea in the first place. I think zombies should just have its own progression system. I think they were doing it well with Black Ops 4 and Black Ops 3, with the whole separate progression system, separate prestige system in those 2 games, but obviously it wasn't enough because there just wasn't that good of rewards. Like, you get an emblem for reaching level 1000 Master Prestige, which just doesn't feel rewarding in a way, and it also just kind of defeats the entire purpose of what a progression system should be. Obviously, I think the progression system is really, really good in those games, but I think what they should do is maybe every 100 levels of Master Prestige, they should add like a gun camo that you get, or something that shows that you really put in the work and effort, and that people will look at you and go like, oh my god, he's Master Prestige level 500 or Master Prestige 600 or something like that. And I just wish that was more of the case than just a random number that would display above your screen, which it's cool and all, but obviously I do think that the progression system in zombies is very flawed, especially with the way that it's been working recently, where they have to link it into multiplayer and they have to link it to Warzone as well. Just kind of defeats the whole purpose of rewarding zombie players for being zombie players, and that's kind of the whole point with making a progression system. So for that, I do think a progression system would be very important to add in as well. Now, my third point is going to be what the game should launch with in terms of content. Now, I think the game should launch with 2 game modes, 1 survival map, and then 1 large-scale map. The 2 game modes should be something along the lines of a competitive aspect, like gun game, rush mode, grief, or last man standing. Those are all really, really good examples of game modes that worked in the past and are still very popular nowadays, especially game modes like grief and last man standing. Those are pretty much player interactive only, and it kind of brings back the co-op aspect into zombies that's been missing for a long time, where you're competing against other people. You actually have your mic on and you're talking, communicating with people. That's what a co-op game should be about, and we just haven't really seen that much with recent zombies games. Like, you take Vanguard and Cold War, for example, those games have just been completely void of communication when you're playing zombies. Like, you get into a public lobby and everyone just has their mics off, which is just hilarious, especially because it's advertised as a co-op game mode, but there's very little co-op playability whenever you are playing zombies, which is just really sad in a way. But I do think that this would increase that talkability. It would get everyone to put their mics on and focus on the game itself, than just kind of doing whatever they want to do in a normal public zombies match. And I think that the game should launch with one survival map just to please the casual audience as well, and one large-scale map, kind of like Shadows of Evil and the Giant from Black Ops 3. I think that formula worked really well because you had the Giant, like I said, is very casual-based, and then if you want to step it up, you can always just log on to Shadows of Evil, do the Easter eggs, build the Wonder Weapon, do anything that's more hardcore-based, and I think this overall is what the game should be fully based around in terms of content. Now, next up on our list is going to be adding in a custom map making option for both console and PC. I think this would be completely revolutionary for the game. I know they already have the custom Steam workshop for PC players, but that's only limited to PC. And if you look at the Zombies community and Call of Duty community overall, most of them are going to be on console. So I do think that adding a Forge mode like game mode where you can build whatever map you want, place the spawns for any zombies, build your own custom weapons, bring those into the game, I think that would open up a whole new window of opportunity for Treyarch and for the community as a whole. First of all, it would be great for Treyarch and Activision because they don't have to spend so many resources trying to build new maps every single month. You literally have infinite content as long as there's always a custom map maker out there making content for the community. There will literally never be a drought in terms of maps, in terms of new game modes. There will always be something added in that's new, and I think this should definitely be the #1 priority for Treyarch coming up in the future. I heard that the next couple games are going to be put on back through Steam, so there are custom map making opportunities for the future. Just hopefully they add it into console as well, because then everyone in the community can experience it, and it would just be better for the community overall. Now, my next item is going to be talking about the microtransaction side. I do think that this next game should release with some sort of Gobble Gums system. Obviously not the ones from Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4, because those are based pretty much on gambling, and there's a lot of legal issues going on with that kind of microtransaction system. But I do think that adding in a Gobble Gums system would be really, really good in terms of replayability. I just think that they should do it differently. My idea was to add in sort of a Gobble Gums schematic system where every single week Treyarch can add in a new challenge, and if you complete that challenge on time, then you can get a Gobble Gums schematic. You can take it into game. Say you're playing Cold War, you can take it into game for Cold War, and then you can build that Gobble Gum using salvage to use whenever you want. And I think that would be a much better system because it both adds in weekly challenges for every single Gobble Gum, which is literally months of content that you can add in for the game, and all you have to do is pretty much copy and paste the effects from Gobble Gums in previous games like Black Ops 4 and Black Ops 3, which just would make a lot of sense in my opinion. I'm surprised that they haven't really done anything like this. And I know that there is a lot of legal issues when it comes to adding in loot boxes. There's a lot of loopholes that you have to jump through, but I think adding in a system like this would just be better for the gameplay and replayability overall. Now, this next point is going to be more towards the post-launch of the game. We already talked about the launch of the game. I want to talk a little bit about what they should do for post-launch. I think they should update the game heavily when it comes to post-launch. I know that back in the day, they used to do season pass style stuff. That's not going to come back anytime soon. So I think the next best thing is probably going to be updating the game, not only in terms of just adding a new map or adding a new gun every couple of seasons and whatnot. I think the best way to do it is to update the actual maps that are already in the game. Like add a Christmas update when it's Christmas time for maps that are either not loved at all or have a lot of love and just need something to refresh the community in order to bring them back into playing the map in a different way. Like make a snowy map for when it's Christmas time, or put like pumpkins around the map and have like jack-o'-lantern heads for the zombies, just something silly like that, just to keep the game fresh. Also make it to where you can update the Easter eggs as well. Make it to where you can add new Easter eggs, new main quests to maps that are already existing. Add new areas too, even if you can. Like I don't know, for example 9, you can add like a different chasm underneath the rest of the map, or it's just something crazy like that. I think that would be a lot better than just releasing a new map. People play the new map for like a week and then they just move on and wait for the next map to come out. It's a waste of resources because you're constantly trying to pump out a large file for just 2 days of gameplay. It's just not really that entertaining to the community as it stands right now, and I think we're kind of moving on from the point where maps should not be the only thing that we rely on in terms of content. So for that, I do think that the post-launch content should be based more around keeping the community fresh rather than just shoveling out random content. Now, this next point kind of relates back to the previous one with post-launch content, but instead of content itself, it's going to be more related to the weekly challenges, the daily challenges, stuff like that. Now, obviously, I think Black Ops 4 was probably the closest in terms of making a weekly and daily system. They had the contracts after the game pretty much died, where you can pretty much just do any weekly challenges, daily challenges, and they were just handed out all the time, and you can use those to pretty much get supply drops to buy either more weapons or to get different camos or just use the supply drops normally. I do think it was a step in the right direction, but obviously implementing it with supply drops was quite a mistake from Treyarch's point of end. So I do think that the better way to do it would probably be to just make it to where you get a camo after you do a weekly challenge or whatnot, or go back to my Gobble Gums schematic system where you can earn Gobble Gums just by doing weekly challenges. Maybe do community challenges as well. Like Black Ops 3 had a really good system where if you got like 1 billion headshots, if the community got 1 billion headshots, then everyone would get this certain camo, and it was just a great time to be a part of the community. I think doing that, engaging the community, engaging the player weekly and on a daily basis as well, is going to be very important for the long term of the game. And like I said many times before, a huge problem with zombies currently is the lack of replayability, and I think challenges would probably be the best way to constantly bring players back to replay the game. Now, this last point is arguably one of the most important as well, next to the custom games option, but I think the best way to make the community better again is probably to add more communication from Treyarch's end. I think that Treyarch has been really lacking a lot when it comes to the communication side, and that goes to show for games like Cold War and Vanguard especially. It's either they don't communicate at all, or they tell us stuff and then go back and double back on it. Like Black Ops 4 is a huge example of just doubling back on statements that they were saying, like releasing factions or constantly updating Rush or constantly putting in new content like weekly and daily challenges or making custom mutations more usable. I think having a clear understanding of what's going on with the game, make some sort of weekly video thing where you just constantly talk about the game every single week, new stuff that you're going to add, new things that you're going to put in, bugs that you fix. I think that would probably be the best way to communicate to the community. I know Jason Blundell tried it a little bit back in the day, but Activision kind of shafted him from doing that. I do think, though, that communication does have to improve majorly, because it's one thing that I know a lot of people are angry at Treyarch for, because they just are left in the complete dark until the day comes with new content. A good example of this is probably Dead of the Night from Black Ops 4 as well. People had no idea that this map was coming out until literally the day of. I remember I woke up at like 2 in the morning because I saw some Australian gameplay of people playing from Australia on Dead of the Night, and I think that's just dumb from both a marketing end, but also just from a community trust end, because communication is the trust within the community, and if you lack with the communication, you're not going to have that trust with the community. You're not going to have the engagement with the community, because obviously the way to engage with the community the best is to start with communication from the developers. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up this video for today. If you did enjoy, definitely leave a like, subscribe, do all that so you already know what to do. Leave a comment down below if you want to see me do any other type of content. Go down in the description, check out the Comfy Cushion podcast. It's a podcast I'm doing with me and my friends. We have a lot of fun and a lot of good talks over there, so definitely go check that out if you're interested. And yeah, I got nothing much else to add on to that, so peace.